maanta oo January 20 tahay waxa furan diiwaangelinta ururada siyaasadda waxayna ku eg tahay bisha March 31.
The commission cannot hold all those elections in the remaining time, and I don't think they even have that intention.
xukuumadda waxa ka go'an in ay idinku garab istaagto in aad dalka ka hirgelisaan doorasho qof iyo cod ah.
There are opposition politicians who oppose having one national election management body when the country is federated.
marka in xisbiyadu xisbiga ardada doorasho asaga u gaara oo samaysanayo hibada waa samaysanaysa maxaa diidaya.
Sheikh Sharif, the former president, indicated what can happen if there is no consensus or there is no political agreement.
Yes.
He also mentioned that his political party will hold parliament election, and we can agree or disagree that parliament election means political chaos.
Only party that now is agreeing to the commission's work is the president's party. Is holding elections. Then nothing is stopping us, Hirmoge is his party, from holding similar or parallel elections. Is that not concerning?
The political party registration, it goes back to the question I started analyzing early on, which is this process inclusive in the eyes of the political stakeholders?
I think it's not the fault of the commission themselves. It's the fault of the leadership of the country, including the president, the parliament, and the cabinet, to initiate something that's achievable rather than creating a mess that finally ends up in serious situations like risk of war.
Electoral law clearly says that there will be unique biometric vote registration.
There is a question about the honesty and the fairness of also NIRA registration. Again, the donors do not want just to support the commission because they were nominated, but what they want to see is they wait and see to see the move of the commission itself. If the commission is a body of integrity, a body of free and fair that can earn the trust of the political groups plus the FMs, maybe they can simply support them.
alla saakada raadinayo waaye qof duway joogo isoo gado waa inaan raadiyaa.
eeyahay ma lahayn qof isku filan kaarka Birmingham ma haysta.
waaw waa la xoroobay fiir saakada ay iibsaday.
ku adeego Premier Mastercard khidmad la'aan mahradaha iyo internet kaba.
Welcome. This is the Sitrep where we offer analysis and commentary on current affairs. It is a new year and a new season, and it's also one year and 4 months until the current term of President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud lapses. So let's talk elections today. I'm joined by Mahad Wasuge, Executive Director, Somali Public Agenda, Abubakar Albadri, a friend, former colleague, journalist, writer, author. Gentlemen, we do have an election commission, the National Independent Election and Boundaries Commission. And yes, it exists. And yes, according to the commission, they have started working. But there are issues. There are legitimacy issues. There are concerns. They don't have political and public buy-in. There's no donor support. The challenges outweigh the opportunities. Mahad, could we touch a little bit on why they're facing these challenges, these National Elections and Boundaries Commission?
Thanks, Mohamed, and good to be back and to Sitrep for the second time. Yes, so the establishment of the Independent and National Electoral and Boundaries Commission took a while. And it started from the amendment of the first four
full
chapters of the Constitution.
Correct.
So when that was approved by the Parliament on March 30, 2024,
Yeah.
the Minister of Interior drafted 3 bills.
Correct.
The establishment bill of this election management body,
Yeah.
the political associations and political parties bill, and the electoral bill. So these 3 bills were approved by the cabinet, and then it took some time to submit them to the Parliament. So after a few months, the Parliament approved. In fact, when the Parliament session was almost expiring,
Yeah.
the President went to the Parliament and requested to extend for 1 more month. And during that period, the Parliament approved the 3 bills, and then the cabinet approved the commission, the election management body members,
Yeah.
and then the Parliament has endorsed. So this was the process that this election management body came through.
Why though are there concerns about the body's legitimacy?
Well, that's an important question. So when the Constitution was amended,
Yeah.
and the amendment was voted for by the Parliament
Correct.
in a 2/3 majority,
Yeah.
in fact, there was no opposition to the amendments. There were politicians who opposed this an amendment process.
Yeah.
And these included former presidents, former prime minister, and other notable politicians, some of them members of the Parliament as well. So that was when they did not accept some of the changes made. And this included the establishment of one unified election management body that will organize or manage elections at all levels of government. And I think that is partly a challenge to the Commission today, because there are opposition politicians
Yeah.
who oppose having one national election management body when the country is federated,
Yeah.
and that one election commission manages all elections starting from local elections. So that's partly one of the key challenges that the commission is facing.
Yeah, and we'll come to the differences between these election management body and the one that preceded it. But before that, let's put a legitimacy question aside. One thing is clear: there are serious political issues. This election management commission doesn't have political buy-in. We know most of the political figureheads, former presidents, former prime minister, politicians are opposing the very existence of the election commission. And aside from that, even if they were accepted, the commission has 15 months to deliver local elections, local council elections, and state level elections, and federal level elections. Even if they were accepted, is that possible even?
Thank you, and I'm happy to be back again to the Sitrep.
Welcome back.
Thank you. And now, the Commission cannot hold all those elections in the remaining time, and I don't think they even have that intention.
You don't think they intend to hold elections?
I don't think, because with our normal intelligence, there is a political chaos in the country. The political oppositions, political parties, FMs, all of them, or at least huge number of them, are opposing the committee or the commission. At the same time, there are realities on the ground, including the security,
Correct.
including the national registration,
Correct.
the voter registration. All these processes need also the public buy-in.
Correct.
The public has no clue of what's going on. But still, I think it's not the fault of the commission themselves. It's the fault of the leadership of the country, including the president, the parliament, and the cabinet, to initiate something that's achievable rather than creating a mess that finally ends up in serious situations like risk of war, or risk of setbacks, like delaying the election into other months or years with a political case in the country. So I don't think the timeline will work for them. But if everyone agrees, they can still agree a timeline that can also function without the leadership of the country now dominating the committee. If they put the commission and what they do onto the table and discuss with the political oppositions and also the missing FMs. Plus those who are not missing but did not still make clear endorsement. So if they put it onto the table and make political agreements, they can still set a real timeline.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, one thing is very clear though, Mahad. Elections in this country come as a result of political agreements. I think we keep saying the only time people shelve the constitution and the laws is when you're holding elections. Elections in this country have been based in recent memory, based on agreements, where all stakeholders are on board and they agree on something. And that is the results of all the elections that we have witnessed. Let's assume for once we can find a political agreement towards elections. And let's assume the elections body is endorsed. Let's talk about voter registration. Is that not the elephant in the room?
Well, thanks. That's an important question as well. And it's not a political will question, it's about technical capacity, technical issue question. And the electoral law clearly says that there will be unique biometric vote registration.
The electoral law specifically states that there will be biometric voter registration.
Yes, and that those citizens who were only registered through that biometric registration process will vote.
Okay.
And to do that, to implement that voter registration process, needs three things.
Okay.
Number one is financial resources to invest in the technology necessary to do this. Second is human capital. It will require a lot of Somali citizens train it and how to use this technology, how to register citizens in different parts of the country. And thirdly, it requires security because this has to be decentralized at the local level, district level, and citizens is asked to go and visit these locations where the voter registration is happening, and this all together will require some time. It's not easy to register and citizens in using this technology in a context like Somalia in a short period of time. We know it took almost 10 years for Somaliland to successfully implement biometric voter registration. So,
and in countries where biometric voter registration exists, a good example in Kenya, on the polling day the biometrics fail, and they resort to manual lists. So that too happens.
Yeah, so that's also a risk that technologies have. But I've not seen any plans for this biometrics. So I think that's also another key challenge. In addition to all the political security stuff, the technical capacity and resources to register those citizens who were supposed to vote is also another key issue.
Agreed. Abubakar, we know 2 out of the 5 federal member states have already not voiced their concerns, but they have said we reject the National Election and Boundaries Commission. They have said that. Puntland and Jubaland have said we have nothing to do with the elections, with the National Elections and Boundaries Commission, with whatever the current government is working on. They have said that outrightly. But you mentioned something else. The other remaining 3 have not also publicly endorsed.
Yeah.
So it's a question of public buy-in, like we say.
Let me start with adding something to what my friend Mahad said about the biometric voter registration.
Yeah.
There is a question about the honesty and the fairness of also NIRA registration.
Okay, for the civic registration?
For the civic registration. For example, if the federal government wants to manipulate something, then they can complicate the citizens to get fair registration in NIRA, whether it is deploying the registration offices.
NIRA is National Identification Registration Agency.
Yes. Whether it is deploying the offices to the federal level, federal state level, and giving them the capacity of registering the number of the people that should apply it. Now, what NIRA is doing is, if you go to NIRA offices, I heard that they ask the people, someone else to come with them, at least to write down that this person is now. So if you cannot just go there and register yourself, how many people that cannot get someone to flow them, like MB or just to vote you, to a guarantor? Thank you very much.
So a guarantor is needed for me to go and get the national ID from NIRA?
That is what they are doing. So how many guarantors do we need?
Is that even constitutional?
No. Okay. So that's one thing. That's my concern. If NIRA registration has the issues of unfairness, then getting the biometric voter registration will be in question, because the government can register those they want.
Yes.
Without being fair to everyone. When it comes to Jubaland and Puntland, actually Puntland have been missing for a long time.
Yes.
And the president had a lot of talks about Puntland on the mosque, from the mosque.
Yeah.
Which I think was not the good way of solving the political issues with the federal member states. And Jubaland, because the other headache for the last few months, and both of them are now missing. Not only that, the general public also is missing.
Yes.
Even if the Jubaland Puntland leadership do not want to support the one person, one vote election in the country, if they don't have the public, if the public buy-in is there, then there could be public uprising. Then the public could change the situation. But now, I doubt if the public is also with the federal government.
And the commission is not doing enough towards public engagement. The government is also not doing nothing towards
when it comes to the commission, I give them the benefit of doubt that they're still new. They didn't make themselves. The parliament and the cabinet and the presidential palace, the president, are to be accused for anything that happened before the nomination of the commission. What we can expect from the commission is either to work for those who nominated them or to work for the good of the country. Then if they start doing something that's good for the country, then public can say, oh, they're different, and can buy them in. Depends their move.
I think I wanted to add on the voter registration thing. I think the government will, if the process starts, will try to maximize the number of citizens that can be registered to vote. The higher number they can register would be the better, in my view. So in that case, they might reduce any conditions that could limit the number of citizens that could be registered and get the voting card. The reason is that in other experiences in Puntland local elections and in Somaliland local elections, there is a significant number of citizens who were registered and took the voting card, but did not come and voted during the voting day. So the voter turnover was really a problem. So I think in that context, the government will do its best to increase the number, assuming that probably many of the citizens registered might not end up voting.
Let's talk about a different kind of
I have a question for Mahad. What about if the government sees the number itself a mastery number that can kill them? Will they still maximize?
Can you say again?
I'm saying if you said the government can maximize the number of the voter registration. In case they see the maximized number a problem to them, something that can kill them, because they cannot control the public. They can control, for example, the indirect election because there are few people. If they see the bigger the number is, the bigger the risk they face, can they still make complicated to get the voter card or NIRA card?
But I think that is what election is. That's how you get legitimacy.
Yes.
The number of people who voted for you means that you have either a legitimacy deficit because a few number voted for you, or you have a significant
in terms of voter turnout.
Yes. So I think to get legitimacy from the public, the government has to increase.
Let's talk about different kind of registration. I think the National Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission on January 20th, that's about 5 days ago, they have announced registration of political parties. A process that will begin now until end of March.
End of March, yes.
Yes, until 31st of March. But let's face it, the only political party that is happy with the National Elections and Boundaries Commission is the President's Party, is UPD. So who are they going to register? Can we talk about party registration, perhaps, before you even talk about voter registration?
I think it's important.
It's only the President's Party that's happy with the commission, for now.
So this is a political question. It's not. So the two are different. Registering a political party needs a political agreement.
Correct.
On the overall electoral framework.
Yes.
But registering citizens to vote, it's a more of a technical question. No one questions that. So if we specifically talk about the political party registration, it goes back to the question I started analyzing early on, which is this process inclusive in the eyes of the political stakeholders? So there are politicians who has opposed the amendments made to the Constitution, which is basically the foundation of these electoral laws and also this electoral commission.
Correct.
And there was Puntland who was outside of this process, and now Jubaland is out because of this electoral an issue. So I think if there are no political parties, political associations representing the opposition groups who are willing to register and participate in the election, it will be a huge problem for the government.
Why I'm raising this question is I'm going to play a clip here.
Before you play the clip.
By former president Sheikh Sharif, in which of course election rhetorics have begun. Now former President Sharif, I'll play the clip shortly after you speak, but what he's actually alluding to is if one political party can hold elections, then what is stopping other political parties from also holding parallel elections, which is a risk. We don't want to go that way. So you wanted to weigh in before we play the clip and we react to that too? Yeah.
I think the political parties registration depends on how the political groups or political stakeholders agree with the commission. For example, if the commission itself convinces them that they will be free and fair for them, then there is an opportunity that they will register themselves. And another opportunity that may make at least some political parties to register is there was a rumor that they will impose huge money for the registration, but now they said it is free.
Okay.
The fact that it is free also, if the non-political parties like Sheikh Sharifs do not go there, because still, even if they don't register political party, they still make themselves a stakeholder that can sit on the table.
Yeah.
There are people who may think that without a political party they cannot be real stakeholder. Then they will go there and register.
Either way, go ahead and
Either
register
way,
now that it's
registrations will start because they are free, and some people who could be just blocked.
For
because
context,
of the
let's listen to.
So I think for the registration is not free, and I'll explain. The political associations who were registered by NIEC, the previous election commission, if they fill in the other requirements, which includes 10,000 members, and as well as offices in at least 3 federal member states, and Benadir, if they fill in these other criteria, the commission will not ask them registration fee.
Okay.
But if it is a new political association that was not registered previously and fill in all the requirements, then the commission will require them to pay 10,000 registration fee. So that's some clarification.
For context, we're talking about the risks involved if bigger political parties don't want to participate in the process.
Yeah.
And when Sharif speaks, I think he represents a number of people, and he was a former president.
Yeah.
So he has some.
He's a leader of a political.
For now.
Party registered by NIEC as well.
There you go. There you go. So for context, what you're saying is he says words here that are very concerning. Let's listen to this.
marka haddii xisbiga ardada doorasho asaga u gaara uu samaysanayo hibadana waa samaysanaysa maxaa diidaya ya sida axsaabta kale uga samaysanayaan ha samaysana maxaa loo diidaya wax loo diidaya lama ama sheekada afrika oo 99.9 oo madaxweyne guulaystay filkaas Soomaaliya kala soconaayo ka dhamaado.
So this is a former president.
Yeah.
A presidential hopeful, a candidate for the next election cycle.
Yeah.
Who is actually saying if certain political parties, and by this he means UPD, by this he's saying the only party that now is agreeing to the commission's work is the president's party, is holding elections, then nothing is stopping us, Hemilo is his party, from holding similar or parallel elections. Is that not concerning?
Well, yes, it's concerning, and it sends a message that his political party is not willing to participate in the current electoral process.
Led by the National Independent Election Boundaries Commission.
Yeah, so, but I think what needs to be clarified is that there is a connection between the local elections that the Commission now plans to conduct and the federal level elections. This process, the local council elections process, is meant to produce 3 national political parties.
Okay.
So these 3 parties alone, for 15 years, will contest for the all elections in the country, and that is that is one implication for this local council elections process. So I don't expect only one political party participating in the local council elections, because the process is open for many political associations, and then 3 of them should come out of the process.
What are the possible outcomes, Mahad, if I may interrupt you, if leaders like Sharif publicly say we're not participating in these elections?
Well, it's a huge challenge for the government, for the incumbent, and to successfully implement the elections. If key political actors are not part of the process, it means you have to renegotiate the process.
Go back to the drawing board, and open negotiations, have a political inclusivity.
Absolutely, and that is a question for the government, how it is willing to sit with the key stakeholders and come up with and address their concerns. What are their main concerns? They have questions about the election. They have questions about the overall process. So if the government is willing to talk to them and adjust the process, I think that is an opportunity for many political stakeholders.
Which for now is not willing to do.
We don't know. We don't know.
We don't see moves made by the government to bring on board other election stakeholders like the opposition. We don't see that for now. But if they do, it definitely offers an opportunity for the country to move forward.
But let me conclude this subject before my colleague, that now we have February and March and for the political party registration. And I think this is a good period to assess which stakeholder is willing to participate in this electoral process. And the number of political associations registered by the Commission during this period. That will give us a good indication of the direction of the elections. How many political associations will participate, how inclusive are these, and how representative are they? At least, at the end of the day, these parties are contesting for seats in different parts of the country.
Correct.
So how inclusive are they, and do they have representatives and politicians from each of these different regions that can make this electoral, this political party or political association a representative of the Somali nation, So that will be clear to us by the end of March when the registration timeline expires.
So it's the first test for the elections.
Definitely,
I want to just say that Sheikh Sharif, the former president, indicated what can happen if there is no consensus or there is no political agreement.
Yes.
He also mentioned that his political party will hold parliament election, and we can agree or disagree that parliament election means political chaos.
Correct.
And political chaos,
civil war.
Yes, political chaos can also mean security volatility, and then there will be donor intervention, because whenever there is security volatility, the donor comes in, and they have argument that they are also trying to save something for the gains made in the years they have been supporting for Somalia, and then the things will be more not in the hands of the Somalis.
Correct.
Then the donors will have essay, and then the committee have to report both to the donors and to the government. That means going back to the doom and gloom election model, which is the indirect election, the Somali leadership could at least now agree something that can make the country avoid from going to parallel elections, security volatility, donor intervention. They can agree themselves because they're still Somalis, speak Somali language, and they can sit together. Otherwise, someone will sit with them and dictate them what they will do. Yeah. We remember when the former president tried to extend the term of the government for 2 years.
And Parliament approved.
Parliament approved. Yes. Then the government approved, the Parliament approved, but because of the donor,
it's the current president that was leading the campaign against
because of the donor intervention, then the president has to go back to the Parliament and say, we compromise. That means we still expect the sitting president, who was the leading opposition of that time, to face the same reality, which is awful. Yeah.
Correct. Mahad, we had an elections body for about 6 years, the National Independent Election Commission. Why was there a need to change that election body into a new outfit? What necessitated, and what is new in the National Elections and Boundaries Commission in terms of mandate, in terms of what they're supposed to deliver?
Well, so the National Independent Electoral Commission was established in 2015
under the current president in his first term.
Under the current president Hassan Sheikh Mohamud in his first term. Yeah. So it had 9 member commissioners, and they were replaced because the Establishment Act of the Electoral Commission clearly says that the commissioners, and that also is the same for the current Establishment Act. It clearly says that the commissioners have 6-year non-renewable term.
The security of tenure.
Yeah. So NIEBC mandate ended after 6 years when they did not have managed national elections.
Okay.
There were extensions made by the parliament during the Farmajo administration, but when Hassan Sheikh came, he said that extension was not legal because it is against the Establishment Act. So that's why the government needed to establish a new election commission. Yeah. So what is the difference between the two? The current electoral commission is mandated to do elections at all levels of government. It's a huge task. It's mandated to do local council elections across the country, to do parliamentary and presidential elections at the state level,
and then at the federal level,
and then to do the upper house, lower and House of the People and presidential elections at the federal level.
That's a lot of work.
So that's a huge mandate. The second change now, I think, is that this commission will also manage the boundaries issues. Initially, we had a separate commission for boundaries. Yes. Which makes sense because election and boundaries are more interlinked.
Yes.
So identifying the electoral districts.
So in essence, what you're saying is, if there were election commissions at state level, they are now defunct. They cannot function now that the National Elections and Boundaries Commission exists. Let's say, for example,
under the current system.
Yes.
It's not only they cannot function, but they are unconstitutional.
They become unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for example, there was a body that managed Puntland's election.
Yeah.
Under this new commission, it means that one has to be non-existent.
It has to be dissolved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which has not been done.
Yeah.
I want to mention a timeline of this election thing. If we remember, in 2012, before Hassan Sheikh was elected for the first term, there was technical selection committee that was managing the process of getting the MPs that elected the president, and Hassan Sheikh Mohamud was the product of that process. After that, Hassan Sheikh nominated the National Independent Election Commission, 2015, 9 members. The political situation was not the way it is now, but it's still because he wanted to stay in power. In 2016, Hassan Sheikh was the one who created the Federal Indirect Election Team.
To manage the indirect elections.
Yes, to manage. Yes. And the National Independent Election Committee or Commission had never managed elections.
Yeah.
They were there. Then in 2016, 2017, President Hirmoge was elected. Then still the National Independent Election Commission did not manage any election. Then it was feet again.
Yes.
Because it was a product of Hassan Sheikh used by Hirmoge. Now Hassan Sheikh is back.
It was a way to solve political problems.
Yes. And now
I think the feet and the seat were ways to solve political problems, political election problems.
Absolutely.
And every time there's an agreement, they shelve the legal elections committee or commission, and now they have to go and kind of come up with something that's agreeable for all parties.
Yeah, and now it is President Hassan Sheikh that nominated the.
So we've come a full circle.
National Commission added with the borders in 2024 with 18 members. I don't doubt that when everyone is bottlenecked and very close to the election time, then there will be.
So we've come a full circle.
Feed again.
Well, just 1 minute on why, although the election commission was there, why we needed indirect election committees. I think the mandate of these election committees is only to manage one person, one vote elections.
Correct.
So
not indirect elections.
They don't have a mandate to do indirect elections.
Similar to the National Election Boundaries Commission.
Yeah.
Similar to this commission.
Similar to this commission.
They cannot manage indirect elections.
Somalia
that's how the country goes.
Yeah. If Somalia political stakeholders agree to go back to indirect elections, then this is not the commission who will be working on that.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's some clarification.
Gentlemen, one last thing before we wrap up. Let's talk about, you talked about donors. Let's talk about donor support. There's no visible donor support towards the National Election and Boundaries Commission, towards the election process. Like we've said, it's only 15 months before they're supposed to hold local council, state and federal level elections. What is stopping from the donors from engaging with the government and possibly looking for funds towards this? Because definitely Somalia is not at a point where we can financially support our own elections, even if we were supposed to go towards 1P, 1V elections.
Let me start. There was a situation between some European countries and the federal government about the deployment of the Somali migrants in Europe that have been rejected to get their residence or their refugee status were denied. Among those governments is 4 Scandinavian governments plus Germany. And after pushing the government to accept the return of the citizens back home, then they at least reduced the support they have been providing, and it has been felt. Again, the donors do not want just to support the commission because they were nominated, but what they want to see is they wait and see to see the move of the commission itself. If the commission is a body of integrity, a body of free and fair that can earn the trust of the political groups plus the FMs, maybe they can simply support them. But if there is still question on the integrity of the commission, then they still remain silent until they see that they have to say something. For example, if there are election problems, in my experience, the donor community do not speak out until 3 groups do action before them. Number 1 is the political oppositions to take the situation to a level that everyone fears there is a war to happen. The other one is the civil society votes to shout out and say what's wrong with the system. And the third is the media to start investigating real questions related to the public interest. If those things do not happen, then the donors will not come out The only way they can communicate is if the commission itself requests funds. They sit with them and they tell them, A, B, C, D is what we don't support. If you can prove yourself to be a commission of integrity, then that's when they came in. If I add something, for example, I know many of the commission members, including the chair, they are, I think, good people until now. Abdulkarim is a man of integrity, he's a patriot, but he can change himself.
It's not about the man though, it's about the commission.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. But we can expect them to insist that they work for the country, not for someone, if they want.
Mahad, weigh in here.
Well, I think ideally, countries organizing elections have to finance their own elections.
Correct. Ideally.
So ideally, yes. So if we are not able to finance our own elections, then we have to go to the donors to give us some financial support and technical support.
Yes.
There is a UN Electoral Support Group who has been supporting the NIEBC for a while, and other countries who have some expertise and resources to support the process. So when we go to them to support the process, then the donor have their own principles, which includes, the this do not harm principle. If they sense that this process is not inclusive,
potentially it could lead to
unilateral, outcome. Then they will have their own doubts. They will step away and they will ask the government questions that might be difficult for them to answer, and they will ask them about the participation and inclusivity of the process. And donor funds have always conditionalities. They spend some money in some process and then wait and see the outcome of that process, and then the funding, the flow in funding has to be released when
the conditions are met.
So I think that, and another clarification is that donors are not the same, so they are different. The donors from the Gulf countries,
the traditional and traditional donors,
and different from the Western donors, and so I think that's also another thing to keep in mind. We are not talking about the donors as one voice,
one block. So it's all up to the government to prove to the people, to the political parties, to the political stakeholders, and to the donors that this process is genuine and that they mean business. In all fairness. Thank you so much, gentlemen. That's all we had time for in this episode. See you again next time. Goodbye.